What up? James and I are in the car. We gotta go get some starter fluid for one of the mowers we bought because I bought it without knowing whether the engine ran. Why would I buy without knowing whether the engine ran or not? Well, I'm gonna tell you. Oh,
I think it's awful to tickle.
I love the tickles.
Did you know that tickling is a form of torture?
Oh yes, I love when the feather comes out in the dungeon. The tickling. I really like this mower. I've had one in the past, and I bought it because I knew absolute worst case scenario. I have one just like it, so parts mower, and I plan on putting an engine on one of these mowers this year. So worst case scenario, I got a lot of extra parts, very cheap. If I do put an engine on, I'm going to use a Predator engine, which is overpowered for the size, and that's awesome. Overpowered is always better. Mo power is mo better. Mo better. And it mows better. Anyways, yeah, so if the engine doesn't run, so I mean, I was willing to take a risk on that. I don't really care, because that was something I had in the works anyways. We're gonna drain off the gas from the carburetor, put it back on, see if it turns over. It's got compression, so if it's got compression, it might run. I don't know. He said it hadn't run in like 3 years. Boy, that's risky. Don't ever do that unless you know you're willing to replace the engine anyways. You need to hear it run. If you hear it run and it's okay, then it's probably good. I will do a video on what I look for when I'm looking for a used mower and what I consider to be a safe investment. Of course, you're always taking a risk with a used mower, but yeah, so I'll do a video on that. I mean, that'd be a pretty good topic. Same thing, used equipment, truck, stuff like that, things I would look for. That over. I bought this Toro. It's a 36 inch. It's got the Superflow system deck, but I had one of these a couple years ago, and this has a mulch kit on it. I don't like mulch kits. I like to side discharge, so that's coming off. I'll probably build a chute blocker like Adam had on his. If you want to see that video, I'll put a link at the bottom. Now, the reason why I bought this mower specifically, one, it's bulletproof, so as long as the engine's good, the mower's good. The transmissions are so cheap, all the bearings and the pulleys and the belts, it's just such a simplistic design that it's an awesome mower to have. It's easy to train people on, that's the biggest reason. With the T-bar setup, it's very, very easy to learn. It's just such a low learning curve. But anyways, the engine, currently, I don't know if it runs, and I'm not too worried about that. It's got the Kohler Commander Pro 15 horsepower engine on it. These are like $2,000 if you want to buy a brand new one. You might find it less, I don't know, 1,200, 1,000. I don't know, I'm not an engine guy. I know I looked at it a while back for one that was equivalent. It was like $2,000. I was like, nah, not happening, right? So, right now, I know currently the carburetor is flooded out. I mean, it's a lot of gas in there, okay? I don't know if you saw that come off my finger, but I have one just like this in the backyard, just like this. So, absolute worst case scenario, I have two mowers that are exactly the same, so I could use one for parts. And basically, I paid $300 for this. It came with a Belkey that's worth $300. It's the same Belkey that I actually have on my X-Mark. And I know that no matter what, in a quick pinch, if I wanted to, I could turn around. Even if I decided I didn't want to do anything with this, I could sell it for what I paid. So to me, that's a good investment. Anytime I can turn around and I can protect my principal on an investment, it is a good investment. So, like I said, it's worth $300. At any point in time, I could turn around, winter or summer, and sell this for at least $300 or more. That's a good investment. Now, if you're a brand new guy and you're not mechanically inclined, is it a good investment for you? Maybe not. You're going to have to do a motor swap on this if it doesn't work. You're going to have to put it in the shop if you're not mechanically inclined. Like right now, like I said, it's flooded. We're going to start by draining the carburetor. checking the float bowl. I'm going to cut off the gas to this because the gas is old. It's been sitting for a while. We're just going to shoot some starter fluid in it and see if it turns over, just as it is. Now, the housing's loose. There's a couple bolts missing. Like I said, not a big deal. I'm not too worried about that. All I want to do is see if it turns over. If it turns over, the engine's okay, then I'll work on it. If not, I'm going to replace it with a Predator motor. And you can get those for about $600 or $700. You get coupons all the time for Harbor Freight, so you can probably get it a little cheaper. And it'll be overpowered, way overpowered. I don't know if that's an issue or not. I don't think it is. It might mess up the ratio or the speed of the blades or something like that. But in all honesty, mo power is mo better, in my opinion. Now, if you've got hydro pumps, that might not be the case. I don't know if hydro pumps can handle more pressure if you put a bigger engine on it. If you have swapped a mower engine with hydro pumps on it and it's affected your pumps, let me know. I'd like to know. I thought about doing that a couple years ago with a Predator engine, and I just backed off from the whole scenario because of thinking about those situations, and I was able to find my X-Mark at a really good price. So my X-Mark walked behind, just so you guys kind of know, comparable. These Toro mowers, just like this, you can find them all day long on Facebook, Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist for $1,000 or less. And then my X-Mark is a hydro. I got it for $1,400. I think that was a decent deal. I didn't try talking them down because I thought it was a pretty good deal. Now, I've been running that mower with almost no maintenance. I changed the oil in it like 2 times a year. And I've never cleaned the carburetor on it. I need to clean it now, to be honest with you. So after 3 years, I have changed the air filter once. I've changed the oil a few times, and never cleaned the carburetor. It's been a very easy maintenance machine. I did replace the spindles. That's something that you're gonna inevitably have to do. From what I've seen on used equipment, you're probably gonna change the spindles about a year or 2 years after you've had it. Just because it's already got wear when you get it. Some machines, like this Toro, you can actually tear apart the spindles and just replace the bearings in it. They've got, bearings that are really easy to find. They're universal. On my X-Mark, they were actually an X-Mark factory bearing, and it was a specialty size, so I actually had to order the spindles in, and that's just more expensive. You got to replace the spindle with the housing, the spindle shaft inside, the spindle, the bearings, and then the housing are all together, and then it's got a pulley on top that's, it's just nonsense to me. Personally, I'm a low maintenance kind of guy. I love Toro because they're so simplistic. If you get underneath this machine, you can access any belt at any time and swap it just in the fly. So if something pops, no big deal. You crawl under it. As long as you got that extra belt in your truck, you're ready to go in about 5 or 10 minutes. So that's why I bought this machine. It's a bulletproof machine. It's easy for my employees to learn because I plan on phasing myself out of the production on my lawn care business as well as my painting. If you guys have seen the box truck, that's what's going on there. Because of it being so easy to learn, it just makes sense. I'd rather not teach people how to use the X-Mark. Once they've learned some other machines, it seems like the X-Mark's an easier machine to learn. I did have an employee in the past that I did put on the X-Mark. Currently, right now, I mentioned this in another video, one of the safeties is broke. It's actually a switch, so when you press down, there's a cutoff switch that'll kill the engine if you let go of the safety if the blades are running. Currently, that's not working, and that's not okay. I would never put anybody else at risk with that machine, so that's a big factor. Now, that's an easy fix. It's just going to take about a day of tearing some stuff apart and going and getting a piece welded. I don't do any welding on my machines. My welding sucks. If you want to judge me on that, go ahead, but that's just my my standpoint on welding. I would rather take something to somebody that welds and have it done right than go through the learning curve on how to weld correctly and deal with stuff that's welded like crap. I've done that in the past. It's just cheaper and easier for me to take it to somebody that does it all the time. Just like it is for your clients to hire you to do their lawn. Make sense? Alright. So, like I said, now that we've talked about it and why I bought it, I'm going to drain this carburetor. We're going to shoot some starter fluid in and see if we can't get it to crank over. If it doesn't, Cool, man. We're going to swap a Predator engine on it. You're going to get to see that. By the way, the reason why the other mower is down actually came down to taking my mower to some less than reputable mechanics. I took it to a shop and the job wasn't done correctly on the mower. So I had to put the mower down for a day. I was doing other stuff. Needed a quick turnaround. I had them replace it was the clutch for the blades, which is actually underneath the mower on the engine. So you got to take the engine off and then replace it. It's a pretty simple job. I had him do it, but the problem was, and I didn't notice for about 2 or 3 months, is that either the bolts weren't all the way tight, they didn't have Loctite on them, or they were stripped out to begin with. But basically what happened is I started noticing my whole engine was shifting around when I was using it. The motor mount holes were actually stripped out. So basically the engine, I can pick up on it and it will just flop around. Because of that, there was so much vibration on other parts of the machine, like the exhaust, that it actually busted the exhaust pipe that goes to it. So I would need to replace the exhaust and tap out all of the motor mount holes, which isn't too bad. We may do that in the future. We'll have to see how that turns out. But yeah, like I said, that's where I stand with this. We're going to see if it runs, and if it doesn't, you're going to get to see an engine swap down the road, which is very simple. I took the engine off the other machine plenty of times. It just takes a few minutes, about 10 or 15 minutes. You got the engine off. You can do what you need to do. You can slap it back on. So yeah, let's go ahead and throw some stuff in here. Okay, so some of the things you might want to look for when you're looking for a mower to see if it's worth buying. How clean is it? So there's a lot of oil on this. See, that's signs that oil's been leaking. Okay? See how dirty that is? It's not a good sign. Then you want to know, is the oil dirty? You know, actually look at it, smell it. If it smells burnt, then it's been overused. If it looks black, it's been overused. It means the engine is wearing real bad. If you feel it and it feels gritty, it's because there's metal flake in it. It's wearing out the engine. Those are some things that I would look at for the engine. Does it start up? When you open up the gas, does the gas smell bad? Bad gas smells kind of like turpentine. It's just like a varnish. It smells distinct. It does not smell like gas. You know, things like that. Is the carburetor, when you pull off the air filter, how slugged up is the air filter? Is it real nasty? When you pull on the string, does it actually tighten up at a certain point? And I don't mean tighten up like it won't move, because that means the engine's locked up. But does it tighten up and then turn over a little bit, like the engine's cranking? You can feel the cycle of the engine moving when you pull it. Not loosely, because if it doesn't have compression, it'll just flip through there like it's nothing. But if you pull on it and it kind of gives you some resistance and then you can keep pulling through, that's compression. Okay, that doesn't mean it has good compression, but it means it has some. So those are some things to check out when you're looking at a used mower. I will go into more depth, you know, how to look at pulleys and what I would look at for an engine, or what I would look at for a used mower. Now the thing to keep in mind with this one is, like I said, I'm not too worried whether or not the engine runs. I paid $300 for it, and I know I can absolutely get that in the shape that it is, even though it's not running, in my market area. I don't know about yours, but in my market area, you can flip it like it's nothing. Basically, I need to drain this off. There's a bolt on the bottom of this, and just from filling it, I don't think it's the stock bolt. I could be wrong. In this situation, my father would always tell me to use the correct tool. And I go, okay. I'd probably keep using what I'm using. Alright. You see all that gas dripping out? Got to make sure your gas is shut off over here. But this is all the gas that's built up in the carburetor because the float bowl is stuck. Quite a bit. Is that good for the environment? I don't know. It is what it is, dog. Looks like water. Let's pretend this is water. I don't know if this is illegal. It looks like water. At this point, I'm not going to pull on this a whole lot. I'm going to pull very slow. I could hear the engine turning. That is a great sign. I couldn't hear that before. So I don't want to start this up currently because we've got all this gas. And you know, gas and sparks, they don't go together. Now back in the day when I was working on this and I smoked, by the way, I quit smoking about 2 years ago, I'd have been smoking right now while working on this. Why? Because I'm fearless. At least I was then. Now I seem to be a wuss when it comes to gas and stuff. I'm like, I don't know if that's smart. So right off the bat, because it is flooded like that, I know the carburetor is going to have to be cleaned out. Basically, that would be a problem with the float bowl. And it's flooding, you know. So we've got this gas shut off. It's not pumping any more gas in. We're going to go ahead and hit this with the blower just to kind of dry it out for a minute. And then I'm going to go ahead and try to crank it over. Alright. Like I said, I don't know if it runs. Let's see if it runs. And if so, it'll crank over just a little bit. Okay, so the engine turned over. It's smoked a little bit. I'm not too worried about that. It's been, you know, it hasn't been running in a long time. So at this point, I know it's worth fixing the engine that's on it. So at this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a few of the, you know, mounting bolts out of the other motor in the back. I'm going to make sure everything's secure. I'm going to change the oil. I'm going to clean the carburetor and just basically clean everything out. I'll probably take the carburetor off the other mower because this one's leaking. I know the carburetor's still good on that. And then I'm gonna put it to work. It's gonna make me money. And it only cost me $300 and I'll spend about a day messing with it. And we'll see if it's good. You know, if it's not, like I said, what I will end up doing is I'll just put a Predator engine on it. The other mower, which I'll show you here in a minute, needs an engine replaced. Like I said, I can do some repairs on it, it'll be fine. At this point, I don't even want to do it. It's got a lot of wear on it. That mower engine was starting to have a lot of wear, starting to smoke a lot, and eating oil. That's never really good a sign for the engine itself. So what I'm going to do is I'll put another engine on that one. I'll have a backup of these, and we're always good to go. I think this was a good deal. Now, you guys want to see the other one, don't you?